Our first speaker today is Vicky Garnett, who will speak about finessing an interactive user interface for DARIAH Campus. Vicky.
Thank you, Toma. Okay, so yes, my name is Vicky Garnett. I'm the Training and Education Officer for DARIAH. And I'm going to talk to you about how the development process that Toma and I, and along with a colleague in Austria, Stefan Probst, developed this content management system and the interfaces therein. So DARIAH Campus was launched in 2019 as part of the DARIAH project. It was designed as a discovery platform for training resources across the DARIAH community, both existing and future. Resources could be hosted directly on the site or have a landing page that would then link out to the source on an external site, such as a project website. In addition to learning resources, the site also presents a means of capturing live training events, allowing for the upload and compilation of presentations, speaker profiles, videos of presentations, and any event photographs in one place. Versioning in particular is important because there are a lot of training resources or training materials out there, but it's not always clear if we have the latest version of those resources. In particular, resources in DARIAH Campus are editable, and therefore we want to make sure that users are, they know when edits have been made and which version it is they're using. An example of this is recently there were updates made to a module on the site that looked at SCOS, which added a video. However, the content management of this site has been done entirely through GitHub, which is perfect from the point of view of versioning and open science, but less convenient for those who are unfamiliar with the GitHub workflow and terminology, or simply nervous about using any kind of coding language for fear of breaking something. Therefore, having spent an increasing amount of time taking content providers through the GitHub process or trying to fix issues that had arisen, it was felt that a more user-friendly option was needed, both to ease user frustration and save everyone a bit of time. But we still had our own requirements. Therefore, we needed a content management system that fulfilled some key criteria. It needed to be easy to use and easy to navigate. It should not rely on the user's knowledge of GitHub or the workflow or the terminology. It would give users a clear idea of where their contributions were in the process, had a friendly interface, still allows for that back-end editing that we needed to do, and also still allows for versioning. The bulk of the work around designing and building the new content management system, or CMS, as I'll probably be referring to it from now on, has been done by Stefan Probst in Austria. Following Stefan's recommendations, the site has been built in Next.js with an open source Netlify CMS that sits over the top of the existing DARIAH Campus structure, so it's kind of a layer. Any changes or content created in the CMS will interact directly with GitHub, continuing the workflow process without the user having to necessarily know whether they are committing, fetching, pulling, or pushing any edits or changes. Instead, the user fills in a series of fields on screen and is given a live preview of their work. As part of the development process, the CMS was idiot tested, and I was that idiot, to make sure that any potential confusion or issues could be identified in advance to make sure we were creating a system that was easy to use as possible. This process proved extremely useful, as some steps that had perhaps been taken for granted as being obvious to a user were highlighted as being a potential issue down the line. As a result, the additional on-screen information was added or functions were built in to make the process of contributing much clearer. As in the previous version, we still create a citation for every resource, and all resources published to DARIAH Campus are subject to the DARIAH Campus Reuse Charter. However, we now have additional features on DARIAH Campus that improve the experience for users and allow more creativity for the content providers. Curricula can now be compiled where a project or content provider has a series of resources in DARIAH Campus and wants to put them together in a curriculum. We currently have one curriculum in place from the Parthenos project, and among the resources we have currently on DARIAH Campus, we have two large curricula coming later on this year and in 2022, and they are the Alexis curriculum on dictionaries and a curriculum from the DARIAH Princeton workshops that focus on developing natural language processing resources for new languages and language varieties. We now also have options that can be used within the resources, such as multiple choice quizzes and the option to highlight code as a demonstration. And you can see an example here from the XPath for Dictionary Nerds module that Toma created that shows how that highlighted coding can be displays on screen. So we'll take a quick look at the content management system in action. When you first log into the CMS, this is the home page. You can see a menu on the left that lists the main content types, and that's at number 1 within the DARIAH campus structure, and that includes the training resources as well as this curricular item as well. Along the top, there are 3 main options: content, workflow, and media, which you can see at point 2. As content providers, well, assuming you're all going to be content providers, you will only really need to use the first 2 of these. And then in the middle of the page, you can see a list of all of the resources currently published to DARIAH campus. That's at point 3. If you want to update a resource that you've already published, you can find it in that list and click on it to edit. However, if you're creating a new resource, you can click on the new resource button at the top, indicated by the arrow. This will bring you through to the editing environment. And here we have an example of a resource that I'm currently working on, which is from our Friday Frontiers webinar series. This shows how the editable sections on the left-hand side are presented in a preview on the right-hand side. Here you can see how the rich text format doesn't require any knowledge of Markdown to format the page as required, although the option to use Markdown is still there if you want to use that. The video card option, which is on display here, generates an additional form, so it's a form within a form, for content providers to enter the name of the platform, the video identifier that can be found in the video's URL, and the name of the resource itself. An image is also uploaded to create the video card image in the preview that you can see on the right, that users can then click, that will take them through to the video. Along the top of this screen, the status of the resource can be seen, so you can tell if the changes you have made have been saved, and whether this is a draft or it's in review and about to be published. And you can see there's a series of buttons there, red on the left and sort of a greeny blue on the right-hand side, that show what the status is. You can view where your resource is in the review and publication process by looking at the workflow, which you can access from those 3 main buttons on the top. Here you will see that what we have in a draft, and you can find the resource that I just showed in the previous slide is sitting there in my drafts column. Once you select to move it through to the in review status, the resource moves to the middle column. Excuse me. At this point, the DARIAH campus site editors, Toma and me, are looking through the resource and checking that there are no important bits of information missing, and making sure as well that it's in the house style. If we need you to make any changes at this point, you can do so. Once we're all happy with the resource, it will be merged into the main DARIAH campus site. And while that is finalized and the website is being refreshed, for want of a better word, it will sit in the ready column. Once the resource is published and live on DARIAH campus, it will be removed from this column and you can see it live on DARIAH campus. So some conclusions then to finish up. We wanted a new site that would be considerably more user-friendly for content providers and would simplify the process of getting a resource published. The split screen with a live preview also reduces the need for additional coding in a terminal or command prompt window, which can be daunting or overwhelming for someone who doesn't usually work in such environments, and that was the case for me. During the development phase, it became clear that user testing is absolutely imperative to the process, as it can highlight blind spots among those who are already familiar with the tools and structure of the site. While the principles of the more interactive and collaborative approach to training resource publication already envisaged with the first iteration of DARIAH Campus have not changed, the complexity in how that was achieved has been reduced, creating a much more streamlined workflow for users. As the digital humanities and academia in general progresses onwards to become more open, the publication and outputs are becoming equally so. It is hoped that with just as with post-publication peer review, and how that creates greater access to scientific outputs, so too do multi-contributor platforms for accessing training resources and materials. The addition of the curricular format to the DARIAH campus allows both training content providers to compile resources that were created as thematic collections, and also assists the learner in finding all the resources that are relevant to them. In other words, it allows for bespoke learning. Finally, the way we consume content in all other walks of life has changed unrecognizably in the first 20 years of the 21st century. So it's only natural that the way training is developed and consumed follows this same pattern. Training has to cater to both the need to know and the need to know now, which is demonstrated in the popularity of so many how-to videos on YouTube. More training resource platforms will need to align their training outputs to fit in with this need for bespoke learning, thereby addressing the need to know for longer-term learning with the need to know now in skills and knowledge development. It is hoped that DARIAH Campus now has the increased flexibility to allow for that. Thank you.
Thanks, Vicky. Even though Vicky likes to say that she's the idiot tester and all these things, she has become quite proficient in GitHub herself. So even though it was a steep learning curve, and we are very happy to have the CMS now, definitely. Thanks a lot. Okay, we will now move to our virtual presentation. The video recorded by Kostas Papadopoulos, Marianne Ping Huan, and Susan Schreibman on DARIAH Teach, multimodal interfaces for student-centered teaching and learning.
Hi, my name is Susan Schreibman, and I'll be delivering this presentation with my colleagues, Marianne Ping Young and Kostas Papadopoulos, and we're very sorry that none of us could deliver this in person. So by now, many of you have heard of DARIAH Teach. It's a platform for open educational resources, catering for the communities of digital arts, humanities, and heritage across a spectrum of disciplines, with a focus on supporting the transformation of digitally mediated education. DARIAH Teach is a European-based platform which has developed courses for in-class use by educators, for students outside formal teaching structures, lone learners, as well as professionals wishing to tech up. It's designed for hybrid or blended classroom teaching and learning, to be taken or delivered synchronously or asynchronously, both in formal classroom settings as well as in more informal settings such as workshops and summer schools. DARIAH Teach has been growing its audience from its launch in 2016. Viewers and users of our content do not only go to the DARIAH Teach platform, but to the YouTube channel where our videos are hosted. We host videos on YouTube as a matter of necessity, but we found over time that hosting on a commercial platform was beneficial, as many people find and watch our videos outside the DARIAH Teach context, thus increasing our usership. In terms of structure, DARIAH Teach courses are divided into units with further subdivisions into lessons and pages. These are equivalent to book chapters, sections, and pages. The design allows for instructors to utilize the entire course, but equally to assign only those units or pages that are relevant to their own learning goals. During the first phase, which was funded by an Erasmus Plus grant, the Moodle-based platform and 8 courses were developed. The second phase was funded by a Creative Europe Media grant entitled Ignite, Design Thinking and Making in the Arts and Sciences. The goal of Ignite was to extend DARIAH Teach's audience into the creative and cultural sector, going beyond the provision of traditional academic competencies through a range of creative problem-solving techniques. As a consortium, we practice what we preach or teach, and we've taken a user-centered approach to developing both the content as well as the way the content is delivered. Feedback is gathered iteratively, using playful and creative design thinking tools. For our students, this was part of their learning process, as they had an experience of giving feedback in an active, collaborative, and bodily way, opposed to the more traditional and less interactive, qualitative interviews that they're taught. With Ignite, we also deliver 2 master classes for peer feedback, and these were the last activities Ignite was able to hold in person pre-lockdown. Here we targeted professionals in academia, the heritage sector, and government officials involved with heritage. During the Ignite grant, a large portion of the technical development went into migrating the platform contents into a new Moodle template called Lambda. The new template provided the opportunity for us to rethink the overall interface design, making it more user-friendly and improving user experience. We knew from earlier feedback that the previous interface did not compare well to the clean and modern-looking interfaces of MOOCs that many of our students were familiar with. The new interface design retained the blue-green palette that aligned with the colors in the DARIAH Teach logo. And henceforth, all Ignite courses adopted the same design, titling, and fonts so that students who use one course can easily adapt to another. Visual markers in the form of icons were introduced to help orient learners as to which course, lesson, and unit they were on, as previous feedback indicated that it was easy to get lost in the online content. We also used visual markers to help students to understand what they needed to do in each section. So we implemented icons that indicated that a piece of content was an exercise, it was interactive content, it was a case study, or a scenario.
In the redesign of DARIAH Teach and the development of the courses for Ignite, we also placed emphasis on multimodality. In addition to text, courses include images, slideshows, timelines and videos, some embedded from streaming platforms, but with a majority created by DARIAH Teach course developers. Page lengths are roughly the same, around 2 to 3 pages of printed material, so the students had some idea of the amount of material they would be engaging with once they opened a new page. Since learning through the platform is designed to be followed asynchronously, courses have been designed to include frequent moments for self-testing of knowledge. This is done through a range of playful, media-enhanced quizzes delivered through the plugin H5P. H5P was also used to develop dynamic and more engaging content, including interactive videos and images, presentations, and timelines. Courses, therefore, take a praxis-based approach to learning by introducing topics with multimodal learning content punctuated by self-testing via quizzes and reflections, and practice or maker-based critical making through case studies and scenarios. Another goal of the redesign was to make the website front page more appealing, offering an overview of the content of the platform while staying clear and easily navigable. As a result, the current front page serves as a catalog or overview of all available courses with intuitive filtering options and basic information on each course, allowing you to get to actual course content with a single click. We also introduced a clear layout division of the English language courses and their translations. Both sections are filterable and reorderable based on most relevant criteria, such as title, ECTS, and release date. We have used DARIAH Teach in our teaching in multiple occasions and formats. For example, at Master University both before COVID as well as during the lockdown, it was used as a core learning pillar in a flipped classroom setting. For one of our courses, Design Thinking and Maker Culture, it was used as an alternative modality to teach theory supporting students' making of a podcast project. On the other hand, for the course Creating Digital Collections, the DARIAH Teach course was used to teach students the workflow for 3D digitization. For both of these courses, we did not follow the respective DARIAH Teach course in its entirety, but selected those sections that aligned with our learning objectives. Other courses developed as part of Ignite, as well as the courses developed in the first phase of the platform, have also been used in multiple occasions and for different purposes. For example, they have formed the curriculum of summer schools and master classes, courses have been translated into Spanish as a course assignment, a course has been co-developed by students, and so forth. As mentioned previously, we have taken an iterative approach to the design of both content and the platform. Here, we will present you some feedback related to the DARIAH Teach interface elements. These come from our students at Master University, our observations and informal discussions with students and learners in feedback sessions during various events, as well as surveys and focus groups conducted as part of DARIAH Teach and Ignite. Overall, students like the multimodal and more playful and interactive elements of the courses, such as quizzes, timelines, and stop-motion videos, not only because they provided a sought-after variety, but also because they could check themselves and consult their resources until they are comfortable with the knowledge and skills they obtained. Of particular interest was a comment which highlighted that DARIAH provided another way to organize student studies. As one student said, "I knew that I did not have much power to read articles, but I could do my DARIAH study in the evening and in the morning do my articles. It organized my day literally." As we mentioned previously, for the course Design, Think and Maker Culture at Master University, DARIAH content was used as an alternative modality to teach theory. Here, the main strength, apart from the more general multimodal and interactive learning experience, was the inclusion of videos created by the DARIAH team featuring practitioners around which the case studies and core concepts revolved. As one student commented in the survey, it was particularly helpful to get to hear people in their respective field explain concepts in their own words. Students also commented on the potential inaccessibility of online resources. A few of them mentioned that they would copy and paste the learning material to a Word document so that they can access it from everywhere and at any time, especially if their internet connections were unstable. The practice of exporting the content to a Word document, thus missing many of the dynamic and interactive elements of the platform, was also mentioned in relation to an assessed quiz. Maybe, if we didn't have the exam, I wouldn't do this, but in our case, it was really important to go back and take the information. Students learned as they were designing and making, and the non-linear and multimodal structure of the courses facilitated such self-directive and iterative learning processes. In the case of the course Design, Think and Maker Culture, where the content was more focused on theory, students also had to get used to the structure and design of DARIAH and the open-ended reading instructions. They commented that they found it difficult to assess if they read DARIAH in the right way. Did I read enough? Am I reading the right things? Am I missing something? With a more traditional academic article and in more directive learning situations, students appear to experience the reading process as more linear, even if in these resources intertextuality is arguably also strong through the many references to other literature. Issues of navigation and finding content that was previously visited were also mentioned. In a lab breakup letter activity we ran as part of a focus group, one of the students wrote, "I would like to thank you for all the helpful videos and writing content you made available on DARIAH. They were quite helpful. Nevertheless, please make it easier to move around the pages. I felt lost so many times on the website that in a determined moment I just had to keep the pages open internally on my PC to make sure I would not lose it." While for some this may be a design aspect that can be improved upon in DARIAH, the open learning environment also prompted students to actively engage with and reflect on the design and structure of their learning resources. In the Design, Think and Maker Culture course, for example, one group chose multimodality in education as their theme and used DARIAH as an ideal example. Finding navigation difficult in an online learning management system is not, though, unique to DARIAH. At Master University, Canvas was introduced last year as the new learning management system. Many students found the new navigational framework confusing, in part because it was not like what they were previously used to, and in part because the non-linear online structure is not necessarily intuitive.
Along with the overall global challenges to natural, cultural, and heritage environments, insights are growing in the landscape of higher education that arts and humanities must contribute even stronger towards development based on human-centeredness and create stronger focus on users, citizens, audiences, and customers, consequently strengthening socioeconomic impact, connectedness, and inclusion across Europe and globally. On the backdrop of DARIAH-Teach's second design phase, a third phase should aim at developing open education resources, catering to wider communities of learners, collaborating more strongly with expertise in pedagogical research environments, and across communities of practice with training providers and teachers' education. And we should develop a still stronger engagement across the cultural and creative sectors and industries to provide digital and hybrid learning practices with a better bridging across artistic, humanistic, and technological creative practices. DIMPA, Digital Methods Platform for Art and Humanities, is such a new suite of courses being developed for DARIAH-Teach. DIMPA is funded as an Erasmus Plus strategic partnership we started developing in 2020 and will end in 2023. DIMPA is coordinated by Växjö University in collaboration with Amsterdam University, La Rochelle University, Cyprus University, Porto University, Aarhus University, and with the Austrian Academy of Sciences as technical partner. Supporting partners are, among others, DARIAH-EU, Europeana Research, Time Machine Europe, and the iSchool organization. DIMPA aims to foster novel creative learning experiences by taking data from the past into future stories, showing how we interact in networks of cultural knowledge and data when creating knowledge and practices for future states. The DIMPA suite spans 7 courses, from an introduction to digital methods over courses on ethnography, augmented reality applications for built heritage and intercultural understanding, to courses based in novel tools for analysis of digital performance resources, European historical newspapers, and built heritage environment and their digital twins. The DIMPA resources will be accompanied by an interactive book to ease the introduction for teachers, trainers, and learners across higher education and cultural sectors into digital methods, connect best practices, and apply spearheading technologies to enable collective efforts towards future solutions. You can collaborate and co-create with us. We support videos on how you are practicing digital humanities teaching on our DARIAH-Teach YouTube channel. We can help develop your own teaching material into an open educational resource and integrate your course on the platform. See, for example, the new course developed by Steph Scagliola, one of the PIs for the first phase of DARIAH-Teach. We support multilingual content and will integrate your translation of an existing course or new multilingual course content in the platform. And of course, we invite new projects on board to be supported on the platform by the DARIAH-Teach framework and as part of our community. Thank you very much for your attention. We are sorry that we couldn't be there, but we would be happy to receive your questions and suggestions for collaboration and future projects via our social media or email.
Thank you, Vicky, for playing the video for us. And now we move on to the third and final presentation for the day. Ellen Lennartz and Ricarda Braukmann, Interfaces to Training and Engagement for Virtual Training Resources During COVID-19, SSHOC Case Study. Okay, that's good. What I would like to talk about, let me see if some of the, is about the training activities in this particular task, and some things about quality assurance and the effect that COVID had on our activities. So we first a bit about online events and the activity of SSHOC Online trainer bootcamps, which was a challenge, as you can imagine, and the training discovery toolkit, training community, and the SSH trainers directory that is just being developed. So first, a little bit about quality assurance, because I think that and I hear a lot of this already in the DARIAH, also in the DARIAH Campus and DARIAH-Teach presentations, that it is more and more important to work towards open educational resources and how to include content creators, but also speakers, and make sure that they are able to contribute to those platforms. So yeah, GitHub is a challenge for me too, I have to say, just
just a thing on the side. But there are these 10 simple rules for training materials. It was a plus article that was not targeting the social science or humanities, but I think we can all learn from it. That's why I also added this image here. So these are 10 rules for training creators, educators on how to handle their training materials. And what is really important, I think, is also versioning. So keeping materials up to date, describe them properly for reuse. So we try to do all this also in the SSHOC project, of course, but we apart from that, it's also about the collaboration of trainers. So how do we make sure that the trainers or educators know about each other, know that there are other educators available and other resources available that they can use. We in this task is also a lot about empowering educators and trainers. So how do, for example, when it turned out that we had to do everything online, we were really working hard to make sure that to test new tools for training. So engaging tools like live polling, but also environments where you can chat to each other and move around, where you can do some a bit more networking or kickstart events in alternative ways. So it's a little bit of tools and yeah. So within one of the activities that we do, the training community, it is also a lot about these describing these tools and how you can use it. Let's move on because I already panicked looking at the time. Okay, so this online trainer boot camps, I think the main thing is, and I'm sure that you all know about what you did to make it more appealing in COVID times. Instead of long days, we made half days and very short sessions, and make sure that there was exercises in between. This made it very lively, very it worked really well, but we also had challenges like people registering for online events much more than for face-to-face events, so that you never know how many people show up. And again, also we had this advantage of being able to be inclusive. I will skip this because it's more about the topics that we did during the boot camps and where the resources are available, so you can look at the slides when this is done. I think that this is interesting for you now that we've seen a bit more about DARIAH Campus and DARIAH Teach. This is not, so the training discovery toolkit was meant to discover training. It's more towards what DARIAH Campus is doing. We were, I think, half a year later than DARIAH Campus to start our activities, but it was of course already in the SSHOC description. So it does, how do you say that? It does a bit of the same thing, but there are differences as well. So it is curated. That's also its strength, I think, at the moment. It does look at a lot of other activities that are going on regarding catalogs, but also it's trying to move with the social science and humanities open marketplace that has developed within SSHOC, and how can we place that again in the EOS? How can we make sure that this is also incorporated in the training catalog? I think in the next slide, yeah. So this is what it looks like, the training discovery toolkit. You can, when you go to the about page, you can see how these resources are, what this training discovery toolkit is actually, but this is just an example of a result of a search on, for example, game. So this is one of the sessions within the training community, has been towards what kind of resources you would like to see more of and how you can discover. So it turned out there were a lot of games and people just didn't know about it. So games that you can do in face-to-face training, but also about research data management, open science, but also other topics. And then on, this is all in this discovery toolkit. So we had also, I didn't put it in the slides, but we had several sessions with users in what they would like to see more of. And we updated recently with more content. I think I will, yeah. So I talked a few times about the training community that we set up within the SSHOC projects. They have monthly meetings, and then the main goal is to exchange knowledge exchange, but also networking, link trainers to know each other and about tools, about new resources. For example, I see the same new resources pop up in several boot camps, but also in training communities within the SSHOC project, but also within the DARIAH project. So I think it's very important that we do this. People most of the time say, I didn't know about this, and it's very good to know, because now I know where to find that resource and I can reuse it. So I think that is our main goal. And also for that reason, we have a trainer directory now on the SSHOC website. It's also curated. It's an inventory of social science and humanities trainers. Well, it's an aspiring one, because we just started it. It continues in a way the work that was done within Foster, and we also would like to be. Well, I'm just at the moment I'm writing a piece about how it could be, not exactly the way it is now, but how something like that could be included in the EOSC platform for training. I think it's an image of the trainers directory. Always good to see. As you can see, there were not many trainers in it, but we just started before the summer. So I would really like you to join as well, so that you can also link to your own activities and resources that you would like to share with other trainers and educators. That was it for me.